Hello guys, welcome to the channel and welcome to a horror film review. Tonight we're looking at a British horror film, one of my favourites. Not a lot of people will put this on their favourite list. Not a lot of people really like this film, but I absolutely adore it. I love it. It's Sean Harris in Creep. So we're reviewing this tonight just because I picked up, finally, the Blu-ray edition of the film. Unfortunately, this is not available in the UK, or I'm not sure where else it's available. This is from Australia. This is from Umbrella Entertainment Releases, and they released a sort of special edition. This one is really cool. Comes with a limited slipcase, which is amazing. Now, the little premise of the film, if you've never seen it, it stars Sean Harris, one of my favourite actors of all time. I absolutely adore everything he's ever been in. This starts off in the underground, because it's based in the underground, and we see two sewage sort of workers in the underground. Now, this is really cool. I don't know the actor's name, but I'm going to tell you what they've been in. One of them is a black lad that's been in Only Fools and Horses. He played the Shadow, if you've ever seen Only Fools and Horses. And the Shadow was this black dude that tried to rob a supermarket one night. Anyway, it's hilarious. He stars in that. Now, the old boy that's with him, Arthur, he's been in a couple of things that I really remember. If you're a Fawlty Towers fan, he was in an episode of that when it was Sybil's birthday and all the guests arrive, and there's one really annoying, irritating guest, and that's him. But more important and more prevalent, if you've ever seen the 1970s British horror film called Deathline, or if you're in America, I think it was called Mind the Gap, he played underground worker, the lift worker on the underground who operates the lift. So it was a little shout out, I think, having him in this film, obviously, because there's a lot of similarities between Deathline and Creep, but Creep goes a more disturbing route, and it's he was in that, so there's a little shout out bringing him back in this. Anyway, they're going through the sewage because they've had reports of a blocked drain. So it's hilarious, the conversations they hold while they're going around through there. And the Shadow has to clean this drain, and all this water falls on him, and Arthur starts laughing at him and all this and stuff like this. So you got to get used to this, and he's going, oh, but it wasn't for my daughter, I wouldn't be doing this. And then they hear a bizarre sound coming further down in the sewage. So they go to investigate, and they find this sort of hole in the wall, and so it's like, but they can't see what's in there. They just hear some sort of noise. So Arthur goes in to explore. The Shadow says, "No, I'm not going in. You know, you like to explore these. You go. I'm not interested." So he goes in to explore, and after a while, we hear more noises and screams. So the Shadow gets a bit curious and goes in looking for Arthur. And then he finds Arthur laying on the floor in shock, alive, but in shock. And he goes, "What have you seen?" And so it sort of looks around. We turn around and we think we're going to see something, but we don't. What we do see is a woman being dragged into the darkness. And so this is how the sort of film starts. So and we don't see Arthur or the Shadow anymore till a bit later on in the film. And then we join our main character, Kate, and she's this German girl at this party. She thinks she's the bee's knees, and she thinks she's beautiful and that. And she's at this party, and she's sort of like saying hi to everyone. And then she bumps into Craig, some guy that I think fancies her, but she's not really interested in him. Now, I don't know these actresses and actresses' names or anything. The actor I've seen before in Holby City or Casualty or something. think he plays a doctor in that. But this young girl, this is the only film I've ever really seen her in. You know, she bumps into one of her friends and says, "Oh, I know where George Clooney's staying." So it's that sort of era when George Clooney was everything. And he goes, "Oh, you're going to go and try and get off with him?" He goes, "I'm just going to go for his autograph." And it's all like this really weak, stupid storyline. But that's why I love it so much, because it's stupid and dumb. And then one of her other friends turns up and goes, "Oh, she's off with her other friend to go and meet George Clooney." She goes, "Oh, but she's already left." And she's like, "What? She's already gone without me?" So she then decides to leave the party, um, and goes towards the underground. Then she finally arrives at the underground, Charing Cross, which is cool to see that in this film. And she goes, and it's great to see some great shots of it. And we go down the escalators, we buy the ticket office. And while she's by the ticket office, she's trying to buy a ticket from a machine, but it's so stupid because it says no change given, and she's trying to give it like a £20 note. So there's a woman behind her says it doesn't give change, you have to go to the kiosk. And then Kate gets really shitty with her. I was just thinking, this woman's only telling you what to do, and because you're preventing her from getting to the machine. You know, Kate's the one in the wrong here. "Are you enjoying this?" she says. She's quite irritating, Kate. Anyway, she says, "Look, you need to go to there if you want a ticket." Anyway, but I'm in a rush. And then sitting over the side, there's like a homeless girl. "Do you want to buy a travel card?" she says. And she goes, "Yeah." And the other woman goes, "Oh, how much?" And she goes, "Oh, £8, whatever." And Kate goes, "Well, I'll give you £20. £20. So she goes and gives her £20, and she gives her a used travel card. This is what a lot of these sort of homeless people actually still do in the underground. They will get travel cards that have been dropped or used and finished, that people have disregarded, and they will sell them on to other people for their journeys of the day. You know, I suppose they've got to try and make a living somehow. Anyway, so she buys this travel card and she goes down the escalator down to the platform. And she then sort of sits around on the platform and it says last train, 8 minutes. So she's sitting there looking around, dolling herself up with makeup and all this sort of thing, drinking the tiniest bottle of gin in the world. And she's like really in love with herself. And then she sees a guy who seems to be on a platform eating a kebab, and she's sort of like really looking down on him, like, "Oh, how disgusting." I mean, the guy's just eating, you know what I mean? As you see, I don't really like her character. I don't like her. But then that just shows what a great actress this woman is, because she was believable. Anyway, so then she sits back on the seat and it says last train 6 minutes. So what do you do when there's 6 minutes left? Yeah, of course, you fall asleep. So she falls asleep on the chair, and then it's sort of like, it looks like a few seconds, and she wakes up and she looks and everyone on the platform's gone, and she's missed her train. So she starts to panic and she walks around for a little bit on the spot. "Oh, what do I do?" And then she finally goes up the stairs, up the escalators, which are now stopped because it's closed. She goes up to the top of the stairs. Obviously, the barriers are open because there's no staff there, and the sort of guard, the grates are closed. The gates are closed, and she can't. She goes and tries. "Oh, why wouldn't it open?" Like, "Well, because it's closed." And she's sort of like, but while this is all going on, we see things from a different camera angle, like she's being watched by someone. And then eventually she hears a train pulling into the station downstairs. So she runs back down the escalators and back down towards the train and jumps on the train. And as you see the shadow in the back, someone jumps on at the back of the train. And then the train takes off, and she's still sitting on it, and it just stops in the middle of the tunnel. So she doesn't know sort of why or anything. and she then walks towards the driver's door, and then the driver is sort of like dead. He's been killed in his cabin, and then the lights all go out on the train, and it gets quite eerie, and we see like a figure of a guy with a torch, sort of approaching her, and she's a bit terrified and sort of, oh, I'm going to go and get my boyfriend, he's in the next cab. Well, we all know there's no one in there. Anyway, so she turns to walk away quickly and falls over, and the guy comes over and picks up, and it's Craig from the party. He's followed her onto the train because he thinks she fancies him and all this stuff. And then things get a bit more out of hand, and he attacks her and tries to rape her and attack her. And as he's got her on the floor of the train, the doors open. We just see the doors open, and Craig gets dragged off the train. So she's then terrified, doesn't know what's happened, and she's looking out the door, empty door. And then we saw sort of Craig crawl back up, and he says, run. And that's it. And she starts running. And she finds that the opposite end cab is unlocked, so she locks herself in there. And then we sort of see like feet underneath the doorway. She then gets off the train and runs back to the platform and runs through the underground, giving us a classic American werewolf sort of scene with the underground. And then she sees a dog, and the dog was a dog that belonged to the homeless girl that she saw at the beginning. And then that's where we meet her and Jimmy, who's like this homeless guy, these drug addicts that live within the walls of the underground. There's a panel that opens and take off, and they live within the walls. And she goes in and starts communicating and talking to them, asking for their help, and then gives them £50, Jimmy, to come and help, to take her to the control room so she can try and get out. And when they get down to the platform, we hear groaning from Craig. So she tells Jimmy about what's happened with Craig, and he's still alive, and all this sort of thing. And while this is going on, we see some sort of predator preying on Jimmy's girlfriend, and this sort of thing. And in these sort of killings all happen. We get killings of obviously Craig, we get killings of the control guy, we get Jimmy's girlfriend, we get killings of, you know, all these sort of things going on. And they're done by, I'm not going to tell you or show you, I'm not going to show you the Sean Harris, that's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to show you in these clips or film, because I want you to watch it and find out about him yourself, because he absolutely plays an amazing part in this film. This is an essential watch to me. It's a 10 out of 10. It's one of my favourite British horror films of all time. I absolutely loved it. I love it when it came out. I mean, when this sort of came out, I was 2 or 3 years working on the railway, so I was loved most things railway when you start something new, you know, new career. And I was so new to it. I was working down at London then. I wasn't in Yorkshire. So I fell in love with this film because of its reminiscence and the way it sort of like was all based in the underground, where I spent a lot of my life back then, because of my social life was going out to gigs and stuff. So I was lived on the outskirts and went into London pretty much every day. So I saw so many things that I recognised. So I had a real connection with this film. And the fact that Sean Harris was in it, who I absolutely adore, such an amazing character actor, and he's so fantastic in this. But you need to watch it to find out about his character. You need to watch it and find out what's happened to the Shadow and Arthur, and you want to watch it to see what happens to Kate. So yeah, it's definitely worth a watch if you've never seen it. Now, the pluses of this edition, it looks wonderful on Blu-ray. I'm so glad I brought it. You know the little venture about it, because I did tell you in my unboxing of the Umbrella Entertainment parcel, how it's taken a good few weeks to get here, and how amazed and shocked and surprised I was to see a Blu-ray version of one of my favourite films that I've only ever had on DVD. It's only been on DVD here in the UK, and it's, never, and it's so weird. It's just like The Ritual, the other sort of great British horror film that's never ever had a Blu-ray release. And I'm just thinking, it's criminal, it's absolutely criminal. These need releases. You watch now. You just watch. Someone will pick this up. You watch. Second Sight, and they'll release a 4K collector's edition. And of course I'll buy it. But yeah, it's so cool to get it. The transfer is fantastic. The film's amazing. It's extremely atmospheric. It's very, very British. It's some good gore in it, some great creature effects. There's some fantastic acting, some poor acting, but there's some great sort of characters in this film, like Arthur and the Shadow and Jimmy and his girlfriend. There's some great characters in this film, and it's fantastic. It's just amazing. Guys, if you've not seen it, you have to see it. It won't be one of your favourite films, but it is mine. I just absolutely adore it. Creep, 10 out of 10. Any of you guys seen it? Let me know down below if you have. This is Creep from 2004, not to be mixed up with the American film Creep, which was a sort of found footage film. This is completely different. Yeah, if you've seen it, let me know down below what you think of it. I love the film. Really, really cool. I've seen a few people give it really poor reviews, but these are sort of like nonchalant sort of people that sort of whimsically like horror films, not actual horror fans. But yeah, it's brilliant, and it's a great British Railway horror film. And stay tuned, because I'm going to do a top 10 Railway horror films. So stay tuned for that. And until then, check out some other channels. Check out Horror Hands, Horror Geek, Man v Film, RS Designs, Pizzlewell, I Am Icelord, Cat Watches Horror Movies, Grumpy Andrew's Haunted House, and The Maniac. And a massive shout out to my lad. Till next time, look after yourselves, look after one another, and I really hope I see you all soon.